I'm Danielle Smith, guest hosting for Common Sense Calgary, and we are interviewing the candidates for Calgary City Council in the upcoming municipal race. I'm joined now by Philip Mitchell, who is your candidate for Ward 8. Philip, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me, Danielle. It's an honor.
So let's begin by talking about Ward 8. Outgoing councillor Evan Woolley has chosen not to run again. When you look at the record over the last 4 years, do you think he did a pretty good job, or do you think there would have been decisions that you would have made differently?
I believe Mr. Woolley did a good job for the first term he was in. And looking back on his election and his campaign promises in the first election, first series he was in, he fulfilled everything he said he was going to. The second term from 2017 on, I believe that things have become cloudy, and I believe the outgoing councillor could have done things differently to represent his people better.
All right, well, let's talk about why you're putting your name in, because I looked at some of your business history. You do some really interesting things, and you've got quite a lot going on. Why did you decide that now's the time to take a turn to public service?
That could be a long answer, but I'm going to try and keep it short. I indeed am very busy in my businesses. My wife is stepping up as much as she can to run everything. The core issue of why I'm stepping into the race, quite frankly, is because my skills of starting and running and changing and altering and keeping businesses alive during hard times is needed now more than ever. And further to that, I'm personally tired of seeing people who run for city council that need the job, because to me that if you need the money, I don't know that that's your goal is the money, and money is not my goal. I have enough money. My businesses are fine. I don't need financial support. I think that we need somebody at city council with no ulterior motives in any way, shape, or form, and that's what I bring to the table.
Let's talk about the type of businesses that you have. Just tell people what it is that you've been doing.
Okay, we had 4 fully running businesses prior to COVID, the beginning of COVID. One was a retail clothing business that my wife is the designer of. All clothing that we import, and it's all made in London, England. Fabulous stuff. And of course, retail sales have pretty much turned off, because what we did is we had a model so we had no website, but we had a model we would set up at Calgary Comic-Con, for example, where 130,000 people would come through the doors, and they'd say, when can we buy this afterwards? Well, you can't. We don't have a website, so you buy it now. So it really worked well. She's still designing clothes for when the world becomes normal again. So that business is going. We had a construction renovation company specializing in old homes in the old neighborhoods like Glamorgan, Altador. So we would renovate 1950s bungalows, keep them as bungalows because people want them in the city. People that love bungalows. They don't want stuff. So we would make an old 50s bungalow into like a $900,000 house with everything you could ever hope for in a home. That one we've stepped away from because of the state of sales. Cost of lumber has doubled. So we've stepped away from that business. We do have a project going on right now. But mostly we are wine importers. We love wine. We import wine from almost a dozen countries. We supply stores all over Alberta and just recently launched in BC. And it's super exciting to be in that industry, and just love it. Just love it.
You have had a lot of interaction with government. I can tell with all of those different businesses. Let's talk about the interaction that you've had with the city of Calgary, because you have worked with various departments for a variety of reasons based on the businesses you've run. How do you find they do? How is the administration performing? Have you identified any problem areas, and what would your experience bring to changing things?
I first and foremost, in the permit stages, I would like to see some red tape removed for sure. And I know I will give the city credit. I've tried, they, as far as secondary suites goes, way back in the day when they said, all right, we're just going to stop putting it in front of council and say a blanket, everybody can have a secondary suite, period. And so they have tried to help. Now, whether or not having secondary suites everywhere in the city is a good idea or not, that's another subject. But they have tried. There's just a long way to go. And I believe, because of my experience in dealing with the city and various levels of governments, my God, I can really help. I can really bring a viewpoint that most people running for council don't have.
And talk to me a bit about that, because there is a different relationship that council members have with each other as well as with the administration. Watching it from the outside, it seems like administration really drives a lot of initiatives and less so with council members. Do you think that that's the right balance, or do you think council needs to be more active?
I think council needs to be more active. What I see personally when I've attended the meetings at City Hall when we were allowed to, and even online now, I see council just takes what city administration says as gospel, so to speak. And it's all just somebody's opinions. And I think having a lot of life experience, a lot of business experience with different factions will make me, if I'm elected, say, hang on a minute, folks, this doesn't ring quite accurate to me. So let's go back and look at this from a different angle, and not to question the validity of the reports or the knowledge of the person or the persons that are making those reports, but just a different perspective, because what we're doing isn't working. It's right. Nobody's happy in Calgary. Well, a few people are. That's wrong. You know what I mean?
Tell me why you say that. When you say that a lot of people are unhappy, what do you hear that they're unhappy about?
I'm overwhelmed, and when I'm knocking on doors, and I have been a lot, and I'm just overwhelmed at the frustration and the anger. Some of that is because of the economy. I mean, we all know that people are going through hard times, but the frustration and the distrust, I've never seen anyone distrust a government. I mean, most people don't trust governments. That's kind of normal in life. But our city council has lost almost all ounces of trust that they ever had, and it's terribly sad to see people. I've had people crying in front of me at the door because their counselor has never concerned himself with them, and they feel that they're lesser people, and not. They are the boss, not the counselor.
Well, then let's talk about what specifically you're hearing in Ward 8. What are the issues that people are raising with you?
The main thing I'm hearing, 9 out of 10 people are extremely upset about high density happening in our older neighborhoods. And again, that's a layered problem. We have to have development. We have to have higher density. But I was speaking with a lady in South Altadore 2 weeks ago. She was the one who was crying. They're building 6 row houses right beside her. And she's been there for 25 years, and no one has returned calls. No one has talked to her. No one has explained to her. Nobody cares. And she deserves to be cared for.
This probably sounds like it goes back to that guidebook for great communities. And I'm kind of interested in knowing from your perspective, because you've had the redevelopment perspective, you're hearing from constituents, but you also appreciate that they're trying to densify and trying to remove red tape. Where do you think they went wrong, and how would you fix it?
To be truthful, I heard about the guidebook about a month ago.
So you're not alone. Everybody seems to have been taken by surprise by it.
Exactly. And right off the top, I'm involved in politics right now. I'm involved in everything the city is doing, or at least I'm trying to be. And if it blindsided me, what happened to the older folks in the neighborhoods? They didn't even know it was coming. The guidebook has a lot of flaws in it. I understand the concept behind it, but there's so many things in there that nobody's even talked about that I personally have concerns with, that it's not a sustainable plan. the plans, if you're going to implement a plan like that, that's such a blanket that's going to cover so many neighborhoods and upset so many people, you'd better think it through pretty good, because I don't think it was thought through properly.
Well, let's talk then about your attitude towards development, because these are the most important decisions that council has to balance. And we keep going back and forth between growing out and dealing with issues of affordability that way, because a young family wanting to get their first home, sometimes going out to a new suburb is the way that they can buy an affordable property. The other way of looking at it is that more multifamily housing allows for more diversity in communities and can also be an entry point into affordable housing. So how do you balance that, building out or building up?
That's an interesting, because is there a one answer to that? I don't believe there is an answer to that. The fact of the matter is, Calgary, and we all know this, Calgary is one of the largest cities in Canada, if not North America, sprawl wise. That is a huge tax burden. And again, going back to Ward 8 residents, they're all upset because they feel their taxes are being used to fund the police departments, the fire departments in the suburbs. So that's what they feel. As far as an answer, I know we have to have development, and I'm okay with maybe duplexes, but you know, the 6-story buildings that they're building in Marda Loop, like on 33rd Avenue, it's a disaster. And that's, if that's planning, I don't want any bit of it, because people, I know a business. I was speaking with the owner of Brant Lake Wagyu. He moved his business out of Marda Loop because his customers were all so angry about parking and driving. He told me that to my face. I can't even imagine the frustration of trying to run a business there. And as soon as the new development that Co-op is building goes in there, oh my, you won't be able to drive down 33rd ever. Gone.
Talk to me then about how you would, like, you've got specific ward issues and you've probably watched the dynamic on council. I'd be interested in your thinking about how council is working, but you're essentially running as an independent. So you'd need to have other like minds to be able to get any changes pushed forward. So give us some sense of how you would approach that issue, and give me some sense of how you think council's working right now.
I believe council has been partisan politics for years now. There's the yesers and there's the knowers, and it doesn't matter what. Sometimes they align, but most of the time it's if this group says yes, this group says no, and again, everybody in Calgary's tired of it. It's like a high school group. Personally, I align with fiscal responsibility. I think we're spending way too much money. We're blowing money on things we can't afford right now. When we can afford things, great, happy days. Let's get all these things we want. But right now, let's just put the brakes on spending. And I believe most people running in the election this year have a similar viewpoint. At least that's what they're saying. That's what I truly do believe. And I can also, because I've had businesses and I've traveled all over the world, I can negotiate. I can get along with anybody to get to a final goal of what we all want to accomplish. And getting angry and calling people names, that doesn't belong in politics. We have to work together, and hopefully Calgarians elect a whole group of people that really do want to see Calgary prosper again.
Yeah, let's talk about, you talk about spending. So we'll deal with it in two pieces. First, the operating side, and then the capital side. So one of the challenges you face on the operating side is so much of the budget is in salaries. And so many of those wages are determined by collective bargaining agreements, sometimes agreements that were signed years ago. So also benefits as well as pensions. So give me some idea of how you would approach that problem. How would you keep the wage costs under control for the public service?
I believe we need to turn around and look inside of City Hall. What a good example right now is on the City of Calgary's website. There's 4 job postings for managers. Each of the wages goes from $191,000 up to $351,000, plus $60,000 a year bonuses. So we're talking potentially $400,000 per person. That's 4 jobs. Well, I stand corrected. There's 3 jobs. One of them says to be determined, but it's in the same group. So that's up to $400,000 per person. Plus they're paying an external search firm, an executive search firm, to do these searches, which I've spoken with one of our head hunting agencies, one of the top firms, saying that they're getting at least $100,000 per search. Okay, so now we're up to $500,000 to fill this job, potentially anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. And then plus this person who is one of the top search firms in Calgary told me that job, I sent all the jobs, should only pay capital of tops $200,000. There's 351 does not equate in the private sector, even in oil and gas. And to quote this person who's the head of her own search firm, she said in oil and gas, this job would pay $200,000 tops. So how is it that we're allowing this? And I know what you said is true. The pensions and all the rest of it. These are collective bargaining agreements that we can't renege on those. They're done. They're part of the deal. But maybe we should stop hiring all these people.
What about? I mean, you're talking about leadership from the top, really. If you're looking at what you're paying managers, what about on the other side, on council? There have been proposals that to reduce council pay, or to look at the severance packages, or to look at the pension for elected members. Do you think there's some room to move there, or are you satisfied with the compensation level?
Because I'm only going to run at most for 2 terms. I have no intentions of being a politician for the rest of my life. I'm a little too busy, but the pensions are all from the LAPP, the Alberta Pension Plan, and every employee gets the same pension. The councillors get the same pension. Everybody gets the same pension. People in AHS get the same pension. So while I appreciate some councillors, some candidates saying, "Oh, I don't want a pension," at the end of the day, it sounds nice, but it's not doing any good. Not doing a hill of beans bit of good. It's just to make people go, "Oh, this is a good person." And I'm not saying they are or they aren't, but what we have to do is, because that is the main cost. And you said it, Danielle, that our main expenditures are pensions, health benefits. That's where all the money's going. So whether we look at privatizing some things, reduce hiring, we can't have a staff as much as we do. And I do know that they have trimmed some of the jobs at City Hall, but we need to do a better job of that, because it's out of control. That's where most of our money's going.
Give me some idea of where you would look at for privatizing or contracting out. I think one candidate has proposed a garbage collection might have a portion that would be private sector. They've talked about golf courses potentially being run by the private sector. Do you see any other opportunities? I
see a lot of opportunities. And I'm going to drop something on you right now, Danielle.
Do it.
I've been working on, off topic a little bit, but one of the things I've been working on in my wine business is a completely recyclable cardboard wine bottle. And it is in the stages right now to be hopefully approved by Alberta Recycling. So no more glass, just a completely cardboard bottle. So it will be stunning. It'll be fantastic. So what we need is new innovative ideas. One of the things I'm going to drop on you right now, the first time, a few people know about this, but you're the first. I want to see, and this is out there, I want to see, say, the Saddle Dome. We're going to knock down this building, and it only needs $50 million worth of repairs. Let's figure out something to do with the Saddle Dome. So what I've been working on, and also this relates to the empty towers downtown, I've been working on vertical growing with a Canadian company who tells me, with the size of the Saddle Dome, they could grow enough fresh vegetables inside the Saddle Dome to feed every Albertan forever.
My goodness.
We would never, ever need to buy vegetables from BC or China or Mexico. And it would be self-sustainable, because it would be the world's first event like this. It would be a tourist. Can you imagine the tourist attraction where people come to Calgary to see, and governments from all over the world would come to see this, And we could charge $30 a head for people to tour through this amazing garden it's completely organic. It's brilliant, and it's in the works. I'm working on a plan and I've got businesses on board in Calgary that want to invest. So the city can be involved in this, and we can turn our city into something spectacular from the inside out.
Well, I love what you're saying. So talk to me a little bit more about that. Where do you think the opportunity is to get the economy growing again?
From the inside out, I believe. I've watched city council and the honorable mayor. I've watched everyone sitting on their hands, waiting for some miracle to come along, waiting for some level of government to throw money at us to build infrastructure, to build things, to save things, to create jobs. It's time we do it ourselves. We've got so many young and old people alike with incredible ideas that they never get heard. They don't have the ability to start a business. If we made it easy for people to start businesses, oh boy, we'd be overwhelmed with the success of our city. We just got to open the gates and let everybody run, and we would create an incredible city from the inside.
So you have experience on the permitting side, and we've talked a bit about red tape. How important is it to address the issue of property taxes? Are you hearing about that from residents as well as from businesses? What's your take?
Residents are overwhelmed with how much their taxes are going up on a regular basis. I have said at the doors that our taxes are in line with other cities as far as residential goes, but I also see our businesses are being crushed. And once the businesses leave, residential taxes are going to go up tenfold, because somebody's got to pay that bill, because that's what pays for our city. We have to, right now is the time we have to save our businesses right now, and we have to get new businesses to start, and we've got to cut business taxes big time. We've got to get rid of red tape. We got to think like when you go around and walk around the city of London, England, walk around Istanbul, walk around Victoria, walk around and see what the cities do to make their businesses thrive. We've got to do that and stop being so rigid. We got to live.
Let me talk to you about one of the arguments I've heard whenever the discussion of new taxation powers comes up, because it comes up every few years, proposals by different municipal organizations or city charters, or a recent report last year. And the argument is we're so reliant on one main source of revenue that if you had additional revenue streams with new taxation powers to the municipality, that would address some of that issue and take the pressure off of residential ratepayers. Do you buy that argument, or do you reject the idea of new taxation powers for cities?
I would like to see the city diversify away from taxation. Taxation it's a merry-go-round. Tax and spend. If you spend a little too much, you just raise taxes. It's never going to end. It's just going to keep going, and people have had enough. Businesses and residential people have had enough of this system, of the pattern. If somebody at the city would say, like my vertical growing, like my ideas, the city could own something like that, but farm it out privately, so that it's run properly, and we don't pay $1 million in pensions to run this organization, but the city's a shareholder in it. The city gets, the last time I looked, the city made 3% on its return on its investments. 3%. Anybody can make 3%. Come on, that's terrible. If we invested in private enterprises as a city without using our city workforce, so we're not on the hook for the pensions and everything, similar to privatizing garbage, we can get an income away from taxation, and that's what we have to do in order to become successful.
All right. Interesting thoughts. Okay. So we've talked about the operating side. Let's switch over and talk to the capital side. Some very big projects with big ticket items that are on the agenda. First of all, let's talk about the Green Line, because it was originally conceived as a project that would be funded by all three levels of government, $4.5 billion, 40 kilometers long, going to the deep south, the deep north, and lots of buy-in. it's changed over time. It's now a $5.5 billion project. It's going to be half the distance, and it goes neither to the far north or the far south. What would, and also the minister has said it doesn't integrate into the existing LRT system. So you've got this problem dropped on your lap if you win in October. What would you do about it?
The Green Line was a fantastic idea, and you brought up all the points why it no longer is. It's not something we can afford. I mean, if it just simply isn't. And the longer it goes into delay, with whether whoever's going to play the blame game, that doesn't really matter. I would say right now we cannot afford the Green Line, period.
All right, let's then talk about the 4 other capital projects that were put forward. So the event center in conjunction with the Calgary Flames and the arena, the BMO Center expansion for convention center space, the Arts Commons transformation for the theater space downtown, and the Foothills Fieldhouse. So when the city voted to approve these projects, they did so against the advice of their CFO, who said they could only afford one of them. Do you think that was the right move to approve all of them?
I do not think it was the right move. We don't have the money. When we fix the core of our problems, which is income, we don't have enough income. If the citizens of Calgary want all these things, well, let's just do it's like a condo corporation. Every household gets a $10,000 cash call to pay for it. You can't just manufacture money. None of us do in our households. So how can the city just keep burying us under these ridiculous debts? I get the concept of all these things are fantastic, but slowly, people. I mean, our city's 120 years old. Slowly, we need to build things slowly. Jam everything down everybody's throats in 4 years. It was a bad decision.
If you'd been on council of those 4 projects, which one would you have put as the top priority?
You're referring to the new arena?
Yeah, so I'll talk about all 4 of them again. So the arena with the Calgary Flames, the convention center with BMO, the Arts Commons transformation with the theater space, or the Foothills Fieldhouse.
I believe the convention center would be the best return on investment. I understand the passion for everyone with the Calgary Flames, and the fact that the Flames did sign a 35-year stay in Calgary clause makes me feel better about the deal. But it's the Saddle Dome. They gave into some pressure, in my opinion. It didn't need to be replaced. It needed $50 million. It didn't need $300 million. It needed $50 million. It could have gone for a little bit longer without dumping all of the money into it. So anyway, to answer your question,
why convention space? Why do you think that would have been your priority?
Because that's going to draw people to the city. That is going to draw, and those people are going to stay in hotels. Our hotels need support. They're going to eat in the restaurants, and they're going to eat very well. They come here with expense accounts off the charts. That's what's going to fund our city. It's going to fund the hotel industry, the restaurant industry. It's going to fund the shops that down on 17th Ave. It's going to fund the transit system. It's going to fund everything. Those people are income. That's the way I look at them. They are walking income sources, and we need them to come to our city.
All right, let's talk about another approach that the government has taken to try to attract businesses. They set aside $100 million through Calgary Economic Development to give direct subsidies to businesses to attract them here. Generally speaking, do you support that approach?
I do support, generally speaking, yes. I would like to see some help to our existing businesses. They're here, and I would like to see, and I know I've seen that city council things, and I want to attract other businesses, but if we can stop the ones that we have from going under right now, that's what everybody should focus on. On a side note, yes, we need to attract other people, and I believe offering excellent incentives, and even further to that, maybe 5 years of no business taxes to start a new business, bring a business to Calgary, something to that effect. I'm not stuck on the 5-year plan, and then I've said that to people, and they say, well, the city won't get any money for 5 years, but the businesses are going to employ people. They'll move here. They'll create income for our city. We have to create income, and by getting people to move here, through incentives, yes, we need to do that.
All right. I've got a pile of questions that should be quick answers right here at the end. Just a few other things that have come up in the last couple of years. Snow removal has been a big issue, especially with this last winter season. In a lot of communities, a lot of the new communities, are your constituents, are they raising it as well?
Oh yes, they are so snowed in up to here.
Do you think it's something like, what do you think the problem is there? Is it a lack of funding, or is it the process for doing snow removal? What do you think is the fix?
I think it is a lack of funding, because we're spending too much money on things that we don't need. Snow removal is one thing we need, and I'll tell you what, Danielle, we have priority one bike snow lanes. And my wife and I were out walking in Elbow Park, and we saw a man who was obviously blind with a cane, just after the snowfall, about 2 weeks after, and he came up to snowbanks and trying to cross an intersection, and he couldn't. So we helped him across. But my point is, we're worried about clearing a bike lane, and we're not worried about our physically impaired people or people who are confined to wheelchairs. It's disgusting. We really need to prioritize who we're helping in our city, because some people are falling through the cracks, and it shouldn't be that way. Snow removal in the East, in Ontario, when something like that happens, they mobilize every private contractor there is, and they get it handled. They get it dealt with. That's what we have to do here.
All right, let's talk about another area of defunding. There's been a defund the police movement, and the way it's sort of materialized is that it's taking a portion of the police budget and putting it towards other type of social agencies to help in the response to mental health and addiction. Do you support that defund the police movement?
I do not, in any way, shape, or form. We need more police, not less. We do, and I know the defund the police was not about reducing our police force. A lot of people made it about that, but that was not what it was about. And you've touched on it right there. I believe that we have the resources. In fact, the police chief said they could cut $20 million out of their budget and redistribute it, and everything would be fine. To be honest with you, it seemed like it was just a chance for everybody to plant a flag on one side or the other and grab some headlines. Because at the end of the day, the police chief didn't see it as a problem.
Okay, let's talk about fire. Have you heard any issues with how fire is delivered? I guess the two things that come to my mind are, when we saw the battle over EMS dispatch, it came out that our fire is responding mostly to medical calls. But in addition, when we were talking about building in new communities, one of the issues was raised was that there would be a huge investment that would have to be made in providing fire services. So there seems to be something not quite working there. I don't know if I can put my finger on what it is. Have you heard any issues, or do you have any proposals for how to change things?
I believe the fire department is stretched a little thin, especially in the suburbs with all the new neighborhoods that have gone in recent history. There's, again, because of the size of our city, because of the sprawl, it's not, we don't have it in the budget to increase the fire department as much as we should, as much as we need to, in order to service the entire city. We have to come up with another solution. And perhaps that if we're going to approve a new subdivision, perhaps the developer or the builder has to pay for the fire services for the first 10 years or something to that effect. We just have to think of something different, because it's not working.
All right. On the issue of EMS dispatch, I mean, I can look at it either way. On the one hand, since fire is doing a lot of medical calls, I can see why the city might want to keep it integrated at the Calgary level for dispatch, but you could also save money by having central dispatch, which could then be reallocated to other services. Do you have a position on that issue? Is it the right fight?
I think as long as the city and the province can work together to keep the service standard at what it is, it really does. The decision does come down to the provincial government. I don't think the city at the end of the day has a whole lot to say in the matter, but we as a city have a right to demand our services do not decrease at all. And we can put pressure on the provincial government to make sure that stays that way.
All right, public art. You traveled a lot, so you've seen probably some great designs of great public art.
Yes, I have.
we've seen the Great Blue Ring in Calgary, and a few other black eyes. Do you think that they have addressed the issues with the public art program and the way they've changed it, or do you think that there needs to be a different approach?
I think that they changed who was in charge of the public art, and then they just reversed that back the way it was. So no lesson learned there. And a mistake repeated more than once is a decision. And I think we have incredible artists in our city, and we shouldn't be paying millions and millions or thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for art that no. When we can afford it, we've got extra money sitting around, just like we do in our households. You got an extra $100 sitting around. Well, let's go out for dinner. We don't have the money. We don't. If somebody will give us all the money, which is what our current administration wants, then great, build some hoops. But we can't build any more hoops.
Okay, let's. I only have a couple more left. There's a couple of other issues that are going to take place at the same time as the election. 2 referenda questions were considered, and we've had referenda in the past before. For instance, on the Olympics, but fluoride is going to go to the people, and the issue of reducing speed limits to 40 kilometers per hour in residential zones is not. That decision was made. Do you think that they made the right decision on both of those, or would you have done something differently?
I would not have lowered speed limits because my personal opinion is speed limits. It's not the speed limits that are the problem. It's distracted people. People who are distracted walk in front of cars, and people who are distracted are driving cars. We need education on that subject, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't believe, I think that lowering the speed limits was a Band-Aid fix. People are still going to get hit by cars, and people are still going to walk out in front of cars from between parked cars. It's just going to happen. We need to educate people.
Yeah.
As far as fluoride goes, personally, I say no. I will not. I don't want fluoride in my water. If it comes into city of Calgary water, I'll drink bottled water because I don't want it. However, and I have been telling everyone in Ward 8 this is a major issue. This isn't something small like, oh, should we put this new curb in this corner or do something minor. This is a major life-altering decision, in my opinion. So what I am going to do if elected, and I've been collecting everybody's emails, I'm going to engage the voters of Ward 8, and if they vote, if the majority of Ward 8 voters come back to me and say they want fluoride in the water, I will vote for fluoride in the water because that's my job as a representative.
All right. Well, that actually lends itself to my last question to you, which is the question of how you balance the issues of your constituents versus the issues of the city as a whole. So what would you do in the event that your constituents were wanting you to do one thing, but the city administration was recommending something else? How would you come down on an issue like that?
I would side with the residents. I would have a lot of meetings with the residents and try and most of what I see and have seen in the past, and what I'm hearing at the doors with the current Ward 8 councillor is just a lack of communication. Most people, if they hear the truth, they can deal with the truth. They might not like it, but just engaging the citizens more rather than every 4 years you come out of, it's like you come out of your little hut and you're like you're the nicest guy on the earth, or a girl or a woman on the earth, just because it's an election. No, that's not your job. Your job is to engage the people, and if they're upset, call them and talk to them and try and explain to them that I'm sorry you're upset, but this is what is best. And not everybody's going to be happy, but you've just got to be a normal person and try and explain that to them and have some patience with everybody, because they're just afraid, they're confused, they're not bad people. They have questions and they need answers.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking so much time with us today. I sure appreciate it.
No problem. It's been a blast.
You got it. That's Philip Mitchell, your council candidate for Ward 8.